welcome back to another episode, season 3, episode 42. Man, we are at the home stretch of the season. The NBA finals is set. We'll get into our finals preview as we always do when it comes around this time. But I am recording, or I should say taking the lead on this one. Mr. Fan over here is a little under the weather, but he's pushing
Yeah,
through, gutting it out for the home stretch of the season, so look at us, man. We're committed to this. 42 weeks in a row, still going strong.
I don't know if that's like commitment or it's sad. You know what I mean? Like it's probably a little
We're
bit of both,
committed.
but
We have no life, but we like to do it, so it's
yeah.
whatever. You can judge us, but we have fun doing it. That's all that matters. But you know what? Let's get into it. Heavy basketball today. But before we get into the finals preview, when we last recorded, I believe we only talked about one series concluding because there was a sweep. However, the Dallas Mavericks had the potential to sweep. They did not. It took them 5 games to win. But kind of briefly going through game 5 for a quick rundown. If you haven't watched it, it was a pretty all-time classic in terms of an offensive production by a duo. I mean, Kyrie and Luka, 30 plus points each, both of them very efficient from the field. And just something about Minnesota, man. I don't know what it is with them this postseason, continuing to struggle at home. There was a lot of talks. Can they come back? They steal a game 4 on the road. Can they be the first team to potentially, overcome that 3-0 deficit that was totally squashed out the window after probably the first maybe 5 minutes of the first quarter, thanks to Luka Doncic. But I'll ask you this. I know like we both kind of watched the game, at least in the beginning part when it was somewhat exciting. But man, what did you think? Like as soon as Luka made the first two, did you think it was over?
I mean, I wouldn't say it was over, but the fact that he started out that hot, and honestly, he hasn't really had the most efficient, shooting numbers this entire playoff, really, right? But I mean, granted, he's been dealing with a whole bunch of injuries here and there that doesn't seem to limit him, too much. Maybe he's not as quick as he'd like to be offensively, but when I saw him, it was really the level of difficulty on the shots that when he's hitting those, yeah, good luck, right? I mean, stepping back from what 30 plus, um, and then just the ease he was getting to his other looks off of those, right? Because it's like I say this about almost all of the great players, especially like Ant, right? I said, man, if Ant can hit a couple threes, make the defense respect the shooting, then it's going to be a long night because off of that, he's quick enough to have the blow by. Luka, similar in a sense to where it's not the athleticism that's going to kill you, but the craftiness with the ball handling and how he maneuvers a pick and roll, right? If you go under and he's going to shoot like that, yeah, I mean, it's pretty much, I don't want to say it's pretty much wraps, but there's not much you can do defensively when he's going to hit shots, um, contested shots from that far away. Uh, I just thought it was going to be a rough night. It was like, okay, you got to hope that he cools off. But then, of course, you have Kyrie, who was, I think, just as efficient shooting the ball. So, yeah, it's kind of like at that point, um, it would have been one of those games in a close series where it's like, okay, you got to tip your cap, right? They both had it that night, and you move on to the next game. Unfortunately, because Minnesota didn't win either of those first 2 games, the close ones, they didn't have that luxury of saying, okay, we can give you this game. So I just kind of felt like it's just one of those times where you got to tip your cap to the superstars on the other team. Unfortunately, it came in a closeout elimination game for Minnesota, but yeah, that's kind of just what I thought. Yeah, just kind of it's one of those you just shake your head, right? When when one of the superstar players is on a heater like that, you just kind of gotta just tip your cap and acknowledge the greatness that you're witnessing. So
Yeah. I mean, I thought like when Luka, I think he hit like two threes to start, I was like, oh boy, this is not good for Minnesota. And I wasn't say I did not think they were gonna get blown out of their home court, to be honest. I thought it was gonna be close, but I was like, oh no, this is not good because Luka in game four wasn't very good. He was very sloppy with the ball, kind of was inefficient for the most part. And, had a couple costly turnovers where he had that late missed free throw that could have possibly given them a chance to come back and maybe wrap up the series. But for him to come out aggressive, really just trying to say, I'm the best player here. I'm putting the team on my back today. That's a scary mentality for really any great player, right? When the great example is LeBron, I think, because he's someone that's you could say, he's a pass first guy. He likes to get his teammates involved. And you could say the same about Luka, right? He's so good. Like I think he tends to try to get other guys involved, get them in rhythm, and then as the game goes on, he kind of just takes over the scoring, takes over the crunch time, possessions. But this one, he just came out and said, "I'm taking over from the start." And when LeBron does that, it's like good night for the other team. And for the case of the Mavericks, it's like, okay, Luka came out, he had like 20 plus points, but it was when Kyrie in that second quarter, it was like, oh, this is this is gonna be a blowout because Luka was hot. Kyrie had actually had a pretty quiet first quarter, but he got going from the second quarter, and then it was just they had no answer for them. But if you look at Minnesota, I think a lot of the analysts, on First Take, NBA Countdown, even like inside the NBA, they're saying, the stars need to show up. And I think for the not the Twins, the Timberwolves and Towns, if you look at their numbers, I mean they were good. They had 28 each. That's like kind of what you want, to be honest, from a box score. But they were like 1 to 1.5 quarters a little too late to the party. I thought, a lot of it second half, right? You could say empty calories, as Shannon Sharp says when he talks about Dak Prescott. But they just started too slow. But to their credit, they fought at the end. But if you look at the team, they didn't really get help from the supporting cast. I thought Nas Reed, six man of the year. I mean, he goes 2 of 10. Like he's a six man of the year for the reason. I think you need to have some production from him as your basically third option offensively. Jaden McDaniels was pretty quiet. Mike Conley, quiet. So outside of those two guys, there wasn't much help to come around. And when Kyrie and Luka are going for 36 apiece, you're gonna need some help. So I don't know, man. At this point, it's kind of to what you said. I think you kind of just gotta tip your hat to Luka and Kyrie. I mean, Ant and Kat, they gave you almost all they could, but Luka and Kyrie are just that good, to be honest. So you gotta tip your hat when credit's due, I think. But yeah, I thought the Mavericks offensively, defensively, with the return of Derek Lively, that's a huge piece for them. And speaking of Derek Lively, I think that's probably, I could say it's a good transition to get into our finals preview. We wanted to just touch on game five really quick, but this is the part that I think, we can really get into the NBA finals now. So Celtics, Mavericks. I think it's going to be a good series. We'll get to our series predictions at the end of this. But why don't we start with kind of what we always do for these sports championships, X factors. So I'll start with you, Greg. We'll go both teams, Dallas and Boston. Give me one X factor from each team that's going to make a difference for each team winning the championship this year.
okay, so gonna go start with so I'll start with Boston first. It sounds like he's gonna play, and if he does play, he's gonna be my X factor. That's gotta be Porzingis.
Mhm.
For me, last series I said it was gonna be Al Horford, right, for Boston. He did have that one big game where he hit seven threes. Ultimately, it probably didn't matter when Tyrese went down anyway, and Indiana kind of shooting themselves in the foot. But I thought it was going to be the big man play, and I feel even stronger in this matchup because of the emergence of Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford in that pick and roll with Luka. When it counts, it seems that they can kind of get the clutch buckets off the lob, or honestly, the offensive rebounding is a threat as well with this Dallas team. Gafford or Lively, who I mean just plays so hard offensively and defensively when they're in there. So I'm really looking at Porzingis like how is he going to be able to affect and kind of play, defense in that role because Rudy Gobert, arguably, the best rim protector in the league, four-time Defensive Player of the Year. Um, at times, it seemed like me. I don't know if this is a coaching thing, but I think we knew. I think a lot of people knew, watching that when it came to those crunch time scenarios, what is Dallas going to run? I pick and roll with Luka, right? Let him operate, and he does that kind of like I forget what kind of dribble they call it, but like that crab dribble almost where he's just keeping, the one defender on his hip and puts that the drop defender kind of in, no man's land where it's like, okay, do I step up and stop him or do I protect the lob? And then he just makes the decision off of there. More time, we saw Gafford with a big lob late in I think it was game three
Game
to
three,
help
yeah.
seal that one. So that's kind of the thing. It's like, you know, one is Boston going to be able to game plan for that, and two, it's got to be Porzingis out there because as good as Al Horford still is at this point in his career, I don't think he's just that same level defender he was 5, 10 years ago, right? So I'm going to look at Porzingis. He's going to be my X factor. I know what Drew Holiday is going to bring. I can't even call him an X factor at this point, honestly, just because we talk about him a lot. We both like him a lot, so that's the reason I'm not giving him an X factor. To me, he's already one of the most important guys on that Boston team. So yeah, Porzingis, he's gonna be my X factor in this one. And on the Dallas side, I was kind of going back and forth on this one as well. Um, but to me, it's gotta be PJ Washington uh offensively, more so because I know what kind of defense he's gonna bring. But almost the same, for how I felt Al Horford was going to be used in that Boston series. Like PJ Washington, he's been kind of up and down, more down, I believe, in these playoffs, shooting the ball. But if he can hit, increase that percentage, I do really think Boston is going to either go with Drew as a primary defender on, Luka or Kyrie, whoever has the ball. But when it comes down to it, I think they are going to double and trap and try to get the ball out of those guys' hands. And I know they like Tim Hardaway Jr. I know they like Maxi Kleber, although he hasn't played a ton in this series. It seems like PJ has kind of been the guy who he has the defense, and when you get the offense from him, yeah, it's going to be pretty tough for the other team. So I'm looking at PJ Washington more so for his shooting. I think if he shoots 30 plus, 30, close to 35% from three in this series, and he does have the confidence. That's the other thing too. He's not afraid to take the shots when it's there. That's good to see. So with the clip that I think he's going to be shooting at, if he shoots it fairly efficiently, I think that's going to be the big X factor in this series. So I'm going to go PJ Washington.
Yeah, definitely. I think two good picks there. But at least for me, I'm with you on the Boston centers. I'll start with Boston. I won't say Porzingis, but I'll say Al Horford. And I'll say Al Horford because I don't know if Porzingis is coming back, like when he's coming back. I don't think it's going to be game one. Probably somewhere, if I had to guess, maybe three or four, assuming the series, is extended past that. But I'm going to go Al Horford because I think he should start game one at the five. But I think it's going to be huge for him because if he can hit threes with who Dallas deploys at center, that's a huge thing because Gafford, Lively, two guys that love to hang around the rim, block shots. Can he stretch them out, get them away from the paint? Because that's the way Boston likes to play. They're a 5 out offense. It's not really a, you know, one guy in the paint posting up, 4 out, one in. It's you drive and kick. It's drive and kick. Like typical 5 out offense because you got a center that can shoot a three. And if Al Horford can hit the threes, at least the open ones, that'll chase Lively out. And I think that's going to help Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown attacking the basket. So just having that respect, I think, is going to be huge for Al Horford. And with the Dallas Mavericks, Luka and Kyrie, they're going to score. I think. Yes, they're playing against Derek White, Drew Holiday, all these defenders, but they're still good offensive players. They're going to be able to score. So I think can those other guys, help counteract that in essence from Tatum and Brown, hopefully canceling them out, I should say. So I'll go Al Horford for Boston. For Dallas, I don't want to say PJ Washington, um, but I'm gonna say Maxi Kleber. I'll say Maxi Kleber, similar to what you call similar to Al Horford, same reasoning. Gafford and Lively, they're not shooters, and I feel like there's gonna be a time where Boston has to kind of expose that. Like they're great. I mean, they're gonna be playing a lot. But if Boston can find a way to expose that, maybe they cut their minutes, at some spree. But Maxi Kleber can come in. He's the one guy on that team in terms of bigs. It's not Dwight Powell, it's not Lively, it's not Gafford, it's Maxi Kleber, who can be, in essence, an Al Horford type of player, pick and pop from threes. So can he knock down, a couple threes a game, to just kind of keep the bench afloat, while Luka or Kyrie is resting, give them that extra burst, to kind of keep them in the game. So I'm looking for Maxi Kleber to have, a couple 3-pointers here and there to really help out Dallas, in that second, third quarter stretch, maybe. So I'm going with two bigs for my X factors on this one. But okay, that's good X factors. Let's go to I kind of wrote this down. It's like a who would you rather have thing. So I'll ask the question and then you just give me your thoughts on who you rather have. So I'll say the first one is which duo would you rather have? Tatum and Brown. I'm pretty sure I know the answer for this one, but I just want to hear it again because you have some beef with one guy. But would you rather have Tatum and Brown or Luka and Kyrie?
Oh my God. Once again, I do not have beef with Jason Tatum. I'm just saying, like, I'm just waiting for his moment. Like, as just off the top of my head, and maybe this is partly, in fact, due to the part that I'm a Lakers fan, right? I don't follow Boston a ton, but I'm like, when has Jason Tatum had that big game-winning shot? No, like honestly, right? Just off the top of my head, as a casual NBA fan, I'm like, when does he hit the big like game winner that I can think of? I just can't draw that off, from my core memory. But with guys like Dallas, right? Kyrie obviously hits one of the biggest shots in NBA history in the game 7 over Steph. You can go to this season, the lefty floater over Jokic, right? And then Luka, um, two big shots in the playoffs to help him win playoff series eventually. Oh, sorry, not two, but um, this past one with against Gobert, and then I'm thinking of the one in the bubble, right? Even though they did end up losing that series, but not even just that, Matt. It's just because I think consistency wise, I feel more confident in what I'm gonna get from Luka and Kyrie on a given night. Whether it's scoring or even playmaking at this point. We've seen Kyrie now in these playoffs score under, double digit points, but he's staying active with his assist numbers. He's not complaining about not getting shots up or anything like that. Um, I just feel more confident with Luka and Kyrie. I think Luka is the best offensive player, honestly, in this whole series. Um, it's
Oh, hands down. Yeah.
slight nod over, over Kyrie individually, you could say. But, it's also Kyrie's veteran leadership at this point. He's been there, he's done that. And when I hear him now speak, after press conferences, I kind of am getting that, veteran leadership type of role that he's kind of looked to embrace. And nothing against, Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown. They just, Kyrie has the ring and, they don't. And so I'm going to trust the guy who's been there and done that in the big moments as well. Right. So I do think it's going to be a fun series. Obviously, we saw Jaylen Brown hit big shots in the Pacers or against the Pacers. And we know Jason Tatum can put up 35, 40 plus on any given night. But yeah, I'm just gonna take kind of, if you want to call it the clutch gene that I've seen more frequently from Luka and Kyrie. So yeah, I'll take Dallas.
Luka and Kyrie. I think it's a pretty self-explanatory one, but it was just funny because I know you have something against Tatum, I'm trying to just egg you on a little bit. So I'm with you. I would say if I was a GM, I would pick the two of them for the reasons that you said, Luka and Kyrie. I mean, people are saying they're the most skilled backcourt in NBA history. At least offensively. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I trying to think of guys that are in that category, and I don't know. I think just skill wise, being able to put the ball in the basket, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's a better two than those two on a team. But okay, next one. Which center tandem, assuming they're both healthy or everyone is healthy, would you rather have? Gafford Lively or Porzingis and Horford?
Oh man, this is really tough. I mean, obviously, assuming we're both healthy, if we're just talking talent wise, I would probably lean towards Porzingis and Al Horford just because they are able to stretch the floor a little bit more. Um, but I will just say that while I would probably take them, if I was just building a team, GM wise, I would probably take those two. Um, I do think Gafford and Lively play the perfect role for their team, right? Rim protectors, they're going to give you effort every single night. Those, one or two possessions they each steal from an offensive rebound, from a hustle play. Gafford has had some big blocks um, and the lob threats that they play. It's really hard to pass up on that when you have guys like Luka and Kyrie. Just individually talent wise, I would take Boston, but yeah, it's really tough to find. I feel like role player guys that are excelling, um, as well as the Mavs duo is right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna go actually not with Boston. I'm actually gonna pick Gafford Lively, kind of for similar reasons that you said. I think these two play so well, and this is literally what I think of in like the modern NBA. Everything is about shooting. If you're big, you have to be able to shoot. This is kind of like, hey, if you cannot shoot, this is exactly the kind of player you can be in the NBA and be successful. And both of them are showing you the blueprint of what to do if you're a center that cannot quote unquote shoot. Like Porzingis, Horford, typical, modern day NBA bigs, right? They're tall, they can shoot the three, kind of, exactly what you want. Gafford, Lively, kind of, I wouldn't want to say old school because they're not really post players, but they just block shots, rebound, protect the rim, be an enforcer. That's literally what you need, I think. And the NBA now, it's so, you could say, quote unquote, soft compared to the old days. Well, these guys bring the physicality back in the game. And I think that's huge to have, a guy like that or two guarding the paint. And anytime you can have a lob threat and a shot blocking threat, I think that's just another nature. And I think Dallas, they're like running away with lobs in the postseason. It's not even close. Like they have so many lob. They're the new modern day lob city, honestly, with just those two guys. So just the way that they play, I'm a huge fan of both of them. I would actually pick Gafford and Lively over Porzingis and Horford right now. Right now. But okay, next one. Which bench would you rather have as a whole?
Oh, which bench
Some
would I
good
rather
players.
have? Um, ooh, that's a tough one. You know what? Let me go do a quick look up. Why don't you give me yours first?
Boston's got Horford technically because Porzingis is a starter. Lively comes off the bench for the Mavericks. Ooh, that I mean that's probably the toughest one, but bench wise, I think I'm gonna have to go right now. I think I'm gonna have to go at Dallas. Obviously headlined by Derek Lively, but I like what Josh Green brings. I like what Dante Exum brings, and I like what Jaden Hardy brings as a kind of backup guard. Um, obviously they're not really scorers, but they're really catch and shoot 3-point guys, to be honest, outside of Lively, right? Kaliba is kind of in that mold. But Josh Green, Dante Exum, Hardy, all you could say big guards or wings. Kind of exactly what you need. And I feel like Boston, they're a very good team, but mostly it's their starting five. You could say starting six. Maybe on some occasions, Peyton Pritchard will hit a few threes here and there, but is he really that consistent? Not so much. So I think I would go with Dallas more. I think they have more depth. They can play 8 or 9 deep. Boston, sometimes it's like, with Porzingis out, it's like they play 7 guys, maybe 8 if they're lucky. So I'm gonna go with the depth of Dallas, and I think the mesh of talent and consistency and how that structure is. I think Dallas for me.
Yeah, I just took a real quick glance, and I think it's pretty obviously going to be Dallas as well. Because I was honestly, it was I knew Dallas's bench, but I was trying to think of who the Celtics really play. I was like, hey, they got Pritchard, and I know Al Horford. If Porzingis plays comes off the bench, I was like, who else is gonna come off their bench? I was like, oh yeah, I guess Sam Hauser, technically, right? But I mean, he's
Hauser.
not going to get a ton of minutes in the playoffs either. Um, so yeah, definitely going to take Dallas's bench. I agree with you there. I mean, Tim Hardaway doesn't even uh
That's
he
true. I
doesn't get
forgot
a ton
about
of
him.
minutes anymore, right? But he's still a quality guy you can throw in there, provide a spark offensively. Like you said, Jaden Hardy kind of came on a little bit more in this Minnesota series. I think he'll probably have some big minutes. Um, but yeah, bench wise, yeah, definitely taking Dallas. I do think they are the deeper team um, in terms of overall roster. So yeah, I'll agree with you there. I'll take Dallas.
Okay, last one for this would you rather have game. Let's go 3 and D players, or I should say 3-point shooting casts. Which team has the edge in that category?
Oh, this is a
It's the
tough
Drew
one. Three and
Holidays, the
D.
Derek Whites, PJ Washington, Derek Jones. Some good players. Even the guys we just
Yeah,
talked about.
I mean, okay. I really like how Derek Jones Jr. and PJ Washington have come on, and maybe I like. Can I even say I like their defense more though? Maybe just because of the length, I think they match up really well. With Boston. But I'm gonna still have to give the nod to Boston with the 3 and D guys. Looking at like you said, Drew and Derek White, who I'm Derek White had a great season. I feel like, and he's hit big shots for this team as well. You know, I just think consistency wise, offensively, they're gonna give you something more consistent from the other two. But I gotta tip my cap to Derek Jones Jr. kind of reshaping his career almost from being just a high flying lob threat to now an elite perimeter defender and a serviceable 3-point shooter. So him and PJ Washington I think have emerged offensively this season, but just consistency for me. Like Drew, he makes game winning defensive plays. We've seen it
Hmm.
now time and time again. Throw back to when he was in Milwaukee, right? Strips Devin Booker, hits the lob to Giannis, essentially ices the NBA Finals for that Bucks team. And then in the last series, right? One on one with Nemhard, who I mean had it go in that game, but when it comes to one on one, perimeter defense on guards, I do not think there's a better defender in the league than Drew Holiday. One on one, he's making guys lose the ball, uh, coming up with big steals, just a IQ as well. Um, I'm gonna have to give it to Boston.
Okay, yeah, this is a tough one because I think two different styles. I think if we want to call it 3 and D players, but I feel like Derek White and Drew Holiday, obviously, bigger name, you could say quote unquote more talent, but it's more of the offensive side. I think defensively, yes, Drew Holiday is terrific, probably the best on-ball defender in the NBA, even at his age, right? He's in his 30s now, but he's still top notch. Derek White is just as good, right? All NBA defensive caliber player. But it's the offense I think that makes it a little more on the advantage for Boston. They can kind of create their own shot. I wouldn't say PJ Washington and Derrick Jones Jr. are, hey, give me the ball, I'm gonna ISO and I can get a shot in the last 5 seconds. Not really their game. I mean, they do their jobs well. If they're in the corner, Luka and Kyrie will find them, and they're pretty much knocking them down for the most part this postseason. So both of them are great, but I'm gonna side like what you said. I think Drew Holiday and Derek White have the slight edge for me in that one. But okay, that's the end of that game. I have one more question before we get into our uh series predictions for the MVP and the results. But I gotta ask, Luka, Tatum, which star needs this ring more?
Needs the ring more, man. That
I should preface
this
that
is
nobody needs the ring, but it's like, if you want to look at a legacy, like who needs a win now?
I mean, this one's tough. I think I'm gonna go with oh, I think honestly, I would. Uh, I'm gonna slightly give it to Tatum. And the reason I'm gonna say that is, this Boston team, it feels like they've been in a win now mode for so long, and Jason Tatum came in as a rookie, was played exceptional basketball, and honestly, it's more so due to the fact that he's kind of consistently had one of the top rosters in the league, right? Like when you look at LeBron's run through the East way back, during his first kind of run through with Cleveland, you know, while they were good, caliber quality teams, right? But they didn't have that same kind of big three essence, or the superstar riddled teams like we have now. Like just looking at this Boston starting five, I mean, on paper, it's one of the best starting fives um, in the league at the moment, right? Just collective, individual talent wise. And I'll just say that I don't want to say the clock is ticking on Boston, because I still feel like the East is a little bit weaker than the West at the moment. Just overall one through, you could argue 10 or 11 on each side. Um, for example, I think you stick the Lakers in the East. I think they make it, pretty far. Um, Probably up until they run into Boston. I would take the Lakers against almost any team in the East. But so sorry. So I don't think that the window is closing necessarily, but for me, it's kind of like, okay, Boston, you've had the chance, you've been at the top for so long, it's kind of time for you to get over the hump because if not, every year that passes, the question mark gets bigger and bigger for Tatum, and I'll even say Jaylen Brown, who's also a star quality player as well. So I'm gonna say the pressure's slightly more on Boston to win now because Dallas. I think Dallas, their team is only gonna get better in my opinion. Still pretty young team. And, I think Jason Kidd is going to stick around for a while. Luka, he's only 25, right? So he's got a lot of years left in him. Although it is tougher, coming out of the West, I will say. Um, but I just think that, yeah, Dallas, they're primed right now, and the future is still good in Dallas. I think if they don't win this time, they will eventually be back. But Boston, uh, I think they're feeling more pressure to get that first one right now.
Yeah, I think this is a tough one. I know a lot of sports shows today asking the same questions. Everybody was saying, "Oh, it's Tatum." It's like it's not even close. I disagree. I think it's very close. Then you can make an argument for both. But you made the case for Tatum. I'm actually going to lean more towards Luka. Not really questioning Luka's greatness. I feel like a title is just gravy to that. Like Tatum, maybe he needs the ring more, but if we're talking about just winning a championship, I feel like Dallas needs it more, and I guess you could say Luka because of one of your points that you talked about, the West. The Western Conference was a beast, and Dallas, credit to them, they're a great team, but they got out of the gauntlet. I mean, they earned every series win. No guarantees that you're going to do that again if the NBA structure stays relatively consistent. And what I mean by that is like OKC. Who did they beat? They beat OKC, Minnesota. Who was the other team? The Clippers. Clippers, okay, maybe they might be on the regression train a little bit, but definitely OKC, Minnesota. I feel like those teams are going to be around for a while. And Shea, he MVP caliber year. He's, upset. Obviously, he doesn't get that, and he gets knocked out against Luka. So the Thunder are going to be good. They're the youngest team in the NBA, and Chet Holmgren, I think he's going to take a next step. Minnesota, I mean, we already know the talent that they have. I think that core is locked up. They're still good. I think they were just, a couple, you could say, choke games away from really being in the finals, and they showed that they're ready because they took down the defending champs in the Denver Nuggets. And oh, by the way, yes, the Denver Nuggets are still in the West. And you don't think they're pretty upset that they didn't even get a chance to get to a conference finals with the team that they have? I still think, there's some pieces that might be on the move. I don't know about KCP, but anytime you got Murray and Jokic, we've talked about it. That duo in crunch time, yeah, look, Kyrie, Luka are great, but I don't know. The Murray Jokic pick and roll, best chemistry in the NBA. So that's coming back. And as long as they're there, they're going to be contending. Who knows about the Lakers? Maybe the Warriors add some pieces to give Steph another run. I think the Kings are still a good team. Imagine if Zion is back healthy. Like, who knows? The Pelicans might have made a run this year. So I think there's so many like good teams out there, and there's going to be teams that take the next step. On the East, I can't really see like the picture, at least right now. Like Boston, they're like head and shoulders above everybody. Maybe if Milwaukee stays healthy, they get chemistry, they can make a case. But outside of them, I don't trust the Sixers. The Knicks, we have to wait and see. But can Jalen Brunson carry you that far? I don't think so. I think you need somebody else around that, but I don't know who it's going to be. If it's Julius Randle, I don't think so. So I feel like the window is still open for Boston just by being in the East. They can get to the finals, and you just got to get hot. Dallas has that tough road. So you're at the mountaintop right now. You got to just take that one extra step to get that championship if you're Luka. So you just don't want to waste that opportunity while you work so hard to get through the tough West. So I'm actually gonna lean Luka for this one. I think he needs to get it right now if I'm him. But with that being said, I think it's time for the predictions. So let's go who wins the series and finals MVP. You want me to go first on this one, or do you want to go first?
No, I can take it.
You got this one? Okay, you started
Yeah,
off.
so I'm gonna say Dallas in 6 games. And obviously if Dallas is winning, Luka is winning the MVP for me. So honestly, just thoughts going in, like you said, Matt, the East, not the strongest at the moment, I feel, and Boston, I don't want to say cakewalked through the East, but their first two, series relatively easy. And even this Indiana one, I felt like there were games there for Indiana to win. And it was more so them shooting themselves in the foot, um, that I felt like Boston outplayed them down the stretch. You know, turnovers, you could say questionable coaching decisions or time management, clock management decisions, I should say. So I just feel like, with Dallas, a more battle tested team, who has proven to win these close, tough, gritty games against, you know, stronger opponents, I feel, in the West. Like you said, OKC, and Minnesota. I just think that those couple games, 2, 3 games, when it comes down to the final 5 minutes, I just think Dallas as a whole is more battle tested at this point, than Boston. And that's kind of why I'm going to give them the slight nod. And I truly am curious to see in game one, how Boston is going to navigate defending Luka and Kyrie in the fourth quarter in this game one. Because I think it'll be a close one in this game one. I do think Dallas is probably going to steal game one if I had to put my money on it right now. Just because I don't know if anyone has really figured out how to stop this Dallas pick and roll at the moment. If Boston comes out and shows me something, I might feel a little bit differently, but I'm gonna stick with Dallas in 6. I just think the superstars are gonna come out, be more consistent, and I just like how the supporting cast is playing right now. Everyone knows their role, right, really well. And I think their offense is a little bit more consistent in the postseason than, like you said, the 5-out offense from Boston. Uh, Maybe collectively they have better talent, but I think as a team right now, it's hard to pick against Dallas. So go Dallas in 6 with Luka as my MVP.
Dallas in 6. Okay. Whew, this is a tough one. Tough one. Dallas is playing so well right now. It's unreal. But it's been Boston from the start. I want to say Boston to the end, right? They started strong. They got to finish it. They're in the finals. I think I think they get it done this year. I say Celtics in 7, and the MVP is going to be Jason Tatum. I think he hears the noise. Um, they're going to learn from what they experienced against Golden State a couple years ago. I think Tatum, he's going to be the lead horse. And I truly think the difference for this Boston team, yeah, you could say Joe Mazzulla, Jason Tatum plays better, but Dallas, yes, they have Kyrie, a guy who's won a championship. Boston also has a guy like that now too, who wasn't on that team, Drew Holiday. We always talk about Drew Holiday, and he put on a show this postseason. Maybe not, he's not going to score 30 points a game, but the winning plays as a team, you could say they got lucky. And yes, some of it, yeah, Indiana, it's like, what are you doing? but to have those moments where it's like you're basically dead in the water and you can come back and win, that's a part destiny, part luck, but also you got to give credit to Boston there because they forced Indiana to mess up. They forced these other teams like Cleveland to, feel pressured, and they forced who did they play in the first round? Uh, eight seed. Who was the eight seed? Now I'm blanking. They forced the eight seed to lose. I don't know. They lost. I don't remember. Was it the Sixers or the? I'm drawing a blank. But they swept them. So really, they
Pretty sure
controlled
it's
their
Miami.
destiny. It was Miami. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Miami. But I just think, they showed me something in that Indiana series. Drew Holiday's defense and the ability to make clutch plays when it counts. Jaylen Brown hitting that three in game one was like, oh, okay. It's like everyone thinks, you gotta go Tatum. You gotta go Tatum. Tatum's gonna get the ball. No, Jaylen Brown he can hit big shots too, and he did. He showed me that, and I think that's gonna have to happen. He's gonna have to hit shots like that, you know, last 4 minutes of the fourth quarter. It's like you just gotta get us a bucket. And I just think Boston is ready. It's not so much, scheme wise. I think Dallas can match up pretty well, but I'm counting on Jason Tatum. I like I'm pushing my chips in the middle for him because of the narrative, what they've been saying about him. You know, is he a great player? Yes. So I'm expecting him to respond. And after losing that first one, I just it's more on the narrative, I think. And also the team. I mean, I always said Boston had the best starting five. You could even if it's Al Horford or Porzingis, like you can put either one. They both play similar styles of basketball. That starting five, just talent wise, is the best. I truly think in basketball. So I'm looking for them to really carry the load. So I'm gonna go Celtics in seven. Jason Tatum answers the bell and gets that ring for the Celtics. Obviously, you don't like that pick, but someone has to give love to Tatum, even though it's not you. But
Whatever, man. I'm
okay,
not a Tatum hater. I'm
yeah,
just waiting
I,
for it. I'm just waiting for it. I'm just waiting
so
for it. All right.
so yeah. So when the Mavericks win, it's gonna be like, I told you so. See, he didn't do good.
Hey, I'm objective. If Tatum has a good series, I'm gonna give him his flowers. Simple as that.
Okay. All right. Please, Boston, please win so Greg has to suffer in the finals recap.
Yeah, see, that's why I'll be more upset just because if Boston wins, I don't care who's on the team. If Boston wins, I'm not gonna be happy as a Lakers fan. So there
Yeah.
you go.
Oh yeah, because they're aren't they tied right now in rings? Boston and
I
the
think
Lakers.
so. I think so. Or it's
Oh
close. It's
yeah.
definitely close.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like they're tied. So yeah, definitely if Boston wins, obviously they have the most NBA championships to every Lakers fan's demise. But yeah, I think that was it for at least NBA Finals previews. So obviously, we'll see how the games play out. First game is on Thursday, so go watch it while you're working, on the side. Put it on your computer. Take a look. But okay, before we get off basketball and wrap this pod up, let's talk about the WNBA that's been going on. Probably the most popular it's ever been at really any point. But let's talk about obviously you could say the golden child of the league, the chosen one, Caitlin Clark. Um, she's been in the news quite a lot lately. Today Pat McAfee had her in the news. She got body checked, last game. Just kind of a very up and down, you could say, really rookie season for her. But I'll give you the floor first. Like, what do you think so far for her? Like, is it kind of what you expected? Is she exceeding? What's the feel right now for Caitlin Clark?
Honestly, well, let's talk about her basketball play first of all. Like, I haven't watched every single game, but I've actually watched a couple games, at least parts of games that she was in. So I'll just say that Indiana as a team. I think they're still figuring a lot out, um, just kind of how they want to play offensively. But I can't say I'm too surprised because, what I said kind of going in uh to this season, as more so about her shooting, was that I thought she was going to kind of struggle at first because, you're playing against elite level athletes now at the highest level, right? Where they can defend on ball much better than some of the other athletes who are going to face. And, going back to, I think, shoot, I can't even remember now in the tournament if it was that West Virginia team. I think that I brought up.
West Virginia. It was West Virginia.
It was the West Virginia team, right? That they had the athletes. The offensively, they kind of struggled, but defensively, they were putting bodies on Caitlin Clark. Always had a fresh body on her, chasing her around. Really tough on ball defense, and yeah, I kind of thought that at the next level, it was going to be tough for her to kind of get into a groove shooting wise, just because the level of play is so much elevated from in the WNBA versus college. So that I'm not too surprised. I thought she would have a little bit more assists at this point. Like I thought she'd be averaging closer to 8 assists a game. I think I checked her stats. She's around 6.5 at the
Yeah,
moment.
6.4.
So yeah, I mean I thought, they would let her kind of just run the show a little bit more. Seems like sometimes they're taking the ball out of her hands. I think they just got to figure out what role they really want her to play. Um, is she gonna be more of a shooting guard, a combo guard, or you gonna let her really play the point? Because I do think her passing, like I think she's already an elite level passer. With some of the passes that she is able to make, albeit she is still a rookie. She does have quite a few turnovers that you would not like to see. But I think as she just gains more experience in this league, gets more used to the pace and the level of competition she's playing against, she's only going to improve and get better. So I gameplay wise, I'm not really surprised. The Fever had the number one pick back to back years for a reason, right? So I think it's kind of a got to trust the process a little bit situation here with Indiana. So I'm not going to overreact or, say she's a bust or anything like that. Yes, what is she averaging? Like 16,
Yes,
15 points a
15 and a
game.
half.
Yeah, it's okay, and she's not shooting it very efficiently. Um, but I think there's just going to be growing pains for her this year. But yeah, at least basketball wise, I'll say yeah, more or less what I expected.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that. Like basketball, honestly, even the you could say basketball wise, but like the non-basketball things, players kind of taking quote unquote cheap shots at her, on and off the court, right? Um, you know, it's the popularity that she brings to the game, which is good. Like, it's great that women's sports is getting recognition, and she's obviously a big part of that. But like basketball wise, I think she's doing, I don't want to say she's doing fine. Like the numbers aren't great, but it's kind of what, like you said, kind of what I expected. I don't think any rookie outside of even maybe LeBron James, and that's really pushing it. Like everybody has some kind of growing pain time period where it's like you just gotta learn. Like you're in a new setting, a new environment. It's hard. It's hard. It's gonna take some time, and people sometimes forget. And you brought it up, which is great. The Indiana Fever had the number one pick this year. They had the number one pick last year. That means they're not very good at basketball as a team. So obviously, it's not like she's going to the Las Vegas Aces. She's just a plug and play player. Like no, like she's not a role player. Like they're trying to groom her to be what she was at Iowa. And even when she went to Iowa, it's not like she played the first game and she was just Caitlin Clark from the start. Like it took her a 1 to 2 years to really, get her footing down, and that was in college basketball. So shoot, the pros, that's a whole nother level. So it could take maybe 2, 3 years to really see her, maybe reach somewhat of that Iowa potential. But she's shown flashes, right? I think she had like 30-point game. She has triple doubles here and there. I think the shots will fall. I think she's fine. She's hitting her free throws, which is good. I think she's at like 89%, I think, close to 90%, so which is good. Um, but I feel like the Fever, like, yeah, her and Aaliyah Boston, great, but I feel like maybe adding a combo guard, like a Luka Kyrie thing, right? Can they get a guard that can kind of play off ball with her and maybe take her off the ball a little bit to kind of get her moving around, play a little bit like Steph, Clay, kind of like Golden State a little bit. So I think there's some pieces the Fever need to add, but I think they just gotta let her play. Try to get her as comfortable as possible, give her that Iowa kind of feeling so she can get her footing down. But I think overall she's doing what I expected. So nothing nothing too crazy, but I think some of the hate that she's getting, it's a little unfair. She's got like a bounty on her head every time she steps on the court. So that's a little too extreme. I don't know.
Yeah.
Players,
I mean, we can talk about that though real quick if you want to. This most recent one, when she's just getting, checked on off of an inbound. What's her name? Kennedy Carter, I think.
mhm.
Um, like I don't know if there's something, going on, like they're talking on the court or, they're drawing back and forth, whatever. But I just don't understand, um, what it is against Caitlin Clark. Like, okay, she's not a great player yet. Like, I could have told you she's not going to be a great player this year. It just feels like, um, they're the WNBA players are thinking there's more hype around Caitlin's game necessarily. Like I'll sit here, with you and say, yeah, she's not a great player yet. She's arguably not even a good player at this point, in her career, but it's her rookie season, right? Like, um, rookie season on a bad team, nonetheless, the worst team in the league the past
Exactly.
2 seasons, right? So it's like, okay, yeah, she's not a great player, but can we acknowledge the fact that hey, she is good for the game, and like after she got body checked, right? I see Angel Reese like standing up clapping, and I'm like, okay, like yeah, that's great. Like if you're trying to be competitive, I hope that's not yeah, she's clapping because she got knocked down type of thing. Um, I don't know. I just don't quite understand why it seems like, they're going out of their way to kind of, not hurt her necessarily, but be extra physical with her, specifically. And it also bothers me a little bit, like, I haven't seen anything like Caitlin's teammates necessarily speaking up or, saying anything
Mm,
or doing anything on the court. Like, what did Steph have? Steph had a Draymond, right? I think we need to get Caitlin Clark a Draymond type of player,
mm,
like an enforcer-ish type of role, or some kind of a player that's
it's a
gonna
good one.
bring that attitude, right? That's kind of like, hey, no, like you're not just gonna go over here and bully my star player, right? Like we're gonna fight back, you know. We might not be good, but we're not gonna just let you guys push us around. Um, so maybe that's a discussion that needs to be had more in the locker room. I'll say, but I just don't understand. Like Don Staley, for example, right? Look at Don Staley after South Carolina wins the championship. Don Staley's been around and helped grow, you know, women's basketball just as much as the next person. You could argue, right? Even she had to acknowledge after that South Carolina win, she said, "Thank you, Caitlin Clark, for all that you've done to help grow our game." Right. So if Don
Mhm.
Staley, WNBA legend, college basketball, Olympic legend is going to be there on the biggest stage, after a championship game saying thank you to Caitlin Clark. Like, shouldn't that tell you how much, someone that really has helped grow the WNBA and sorry, just women's basketball in general, uh, give their perspective on Caitlin Clark? And it's like, why do I just feel like, maybe there's more going on that I don't know. Why does it feel like these players seem to just really like, hey, welcome to the league, Caitlin, boom, knock her down or extra physical. I just don't really understand. And then it's all this, I mean, even Angel Reese today, I think, was saying
Yeah,
like,
she has some
it's not
comments.
just one player, right? It's not just one player. I'm helping grow this game too. And yeah, like respectively, she's been arguably the second biggest name in women's college basketball. She did the whole ring thing that drew a whole bunch of different opinions, right? But I mean, play wise, I'll just say the reason I think Caitlin Clark brings so much excitement is because she really plays the game at a different pace, maybe, or style. Maybe that's the word. I'll say style, right? The ability to hit the step back from that deep, right? It's a more exciting brand of basketball that I think you could say. The other shoot, I'm trying to think of her name. I think it's Arike Ogunbowale. She's the one that hit like the big shot. I know. Um, she in Notre Dame or something?
Notre Dame.
Um,
Yeah.
right. She hit the big shot in the college basketball. That was the finals, I think, too, to help them
Hmm.
win. But like her brand of basketball. If you watch her play basketball as well, she's like reminds me of kind of like a Kyrie-ish version of the WNBA. It's like exciting. She has a handle, she has a step back, she has a crafty finish. Like that for me as a fan is the type of game I enjoy watching. All credit to, the dominant bigs in the league as well. But like Asia Wilson, right, for example, she's arguably the best player in the WNBA, two-time champ at this point. But her game, it's solid, it's fundamental, right? But it's not real flashy, you could say, right? Um, and that just hasn't drawn the type of views that Caitlin Clark has been able to draw with her style, maybe you could say. Um, so yeah, I just don't understand the hate from her peers that I'm feeling. Maybe it's there's something else going on that I just don't understand, but it just feels like she's getting a lot of hate, more so from her own peers. I just don't understand it.
Yeah. It's unfair, and I feel like there's a little bit of jealousy, right? Like maybe I don't know if it's more the stars, but even Sabrina, like she's a duck, but when they were playing, she was kind of chirping a little bit at Caitlyn, but she was kind of like I don't want to say Caitlyn before Caitlyn, but even in college, right? She was kind of the star, and then Caitlyn comes along, and then in the NBA, she's the quote unquote 3 point, queen, you could say, and then here comes Caitlyn. So I don't know if there's some kind of jealousy thing going around, which I think there is when you get someone that's getting so much hype. And I even pointed
And
to Angel too. Like, I mean, what she's saying is true. Like, she's definitely helped grow the game, the WNBA, women's basketball in college as a whole. Like, it was good that she's bringing marketing, right? She has a point, but I feel like she's a little, I think there's a little jealousy. Obviously there's some history between her and Caitlyn, going back to obviously the national championship games. So I think there is a little bit of jealousy just going around the league, but I don't know. Yeah, it's sad. Like, I don't think from what we see, it doesn't seem like Caitlyn is, egging people on. Like, I think she was even like, wow, like, I think the physicality was a shock to her, just coming into the league. And I don't think she was expecting it to be this physical and this challenging, but I think time will tell. But she's played 11 games in the WNBA. I think she deserves some slack, to start her career. you got to give her a couple of years, I think, to really see some kind of growth and let the Fever build a quality team because like we said for like the 50th time talking about Caitlin Clark on the Fever, they had the worst record in the league the past 2 years. That should mean something to everybody watching. So with that being said, Caitlin, you keep doing your thing. Hopefully you can hit some threes a little bit more, but other than that, man, just keep on going, man. But yeah, I think that's pretty good for basketball, right? What do you think? Well,
Yeah.
NBA finals coming up. Let's get into, our usual stuff. We got to touch on our baseball teams really quickly. I'll start because my team has the best record in baseball as of today. But it was a good week in Yankee land. We had a West Coast trip that just wrapped up. Hey, anytime you go 7-2 on the road, that's a really, really good series. And actually, we helped you guys out because we beat the Padres 2 out of 3. We swept the Giants for you, so you should have been happy that the Yankees played well this week. But there's a lot of good things that happen. Anthony Volpe, man, he's hitting the ball well. Sadly, his hit streak came to an end at 21 games. But he's been anchoring that leadoff spot. DJ LeMahieu's coming back, so that's a good thing. I think with him being kind of at that bottom of the lineup, second leadoff hitter in the 9 spot, that's a good role for him. And I think he hasn't really gotten off to a blistering start, and I don't think he's ever going to be the batting champion ever again. But he still has the good bat to ball skills. I saw a couple hidden runs over the week, which is good. I think he's perfect for that role. So just getting him comfortable back into the lineup is going to be huge for us. And the only downside though is Clark Schmidt got hurt. Kind of a bummer. He's out for I think 4 to 6 weeks of no throw. So he's definitely not going to be back till after the All-Star break. So hopefully Garrett Cole now can come back, I guess, kind of fill in that role. There was always that question, oh, what if the Yankees need to go to a 6-man rotation? I think that question is now solved itself. Garrett Cole will enter and complete the 5-man rotation, but Cody Poteet filling in nicely, I think. But I think we gotta talk about my stars a little bit. Luis Heel, man, pitcher of the month for the AL. I don't want to say he's the Cy Young favorite right now, but he might be the Cy Young favorite in the AL, which is crazy. Um, the kid has been spectacular. I mean, I have no words. He honestly could start the All-Star game, honestly, for the AL. He's been that good. Um, yeah, he's been great. But you know who else has been leaving me speechless is Arson Judge and Juan Soto. Arson went back to the Bay and just crushing balls. He's just so special right now. And then Juan Soto had his Yankee moment, I would say, last game. Go ahead 2-run home run against one of the top closers in baseball in Camilo Doval. Just crushed 101-mile-per-hour fastball onto the top deck in right field. I mean, this is just great baseball right now. And I don't think we've ever seen a duel have an OPS over 1,000 for both players. And right now, both Aaron Judge and Juan Soto have that right now. I don't even, that might be baseball history, I think. I don't know if they would be the first or one of the few, but they're on track to actually, I think, stay the course and they can get that. So it's great in Yankee land. But you know what? What's coming up? The Dodgers and the Yankees are coming up on the weekend, 3-game series in the Bronx. I think that's going to be a good test for both of our teams, to be honest. So I'm going to look forward to that one, but we got to take care of Minnesota first before we look ahead to the big weekend series against our teams. But hey, Yankee land's going well. I can't complain. But how your Dodgers doing?
Yeah. I mean, had a good bounce back week, right? Swept the Mets, and then take 2 out of 3 against Colorado. Um, yeah, I mean, was a little bit concerning there. I think we lost five in a row, right? So it's like, a little blip in the radar. But like I said, for us to come back, and especially that Mets series, those first two games with late offense, in the eighth and ninth innings, I just thought it was some pretty impressive wins there. When it looked like we had nothing going, and to come back and somehow win those games, I was like, yeah, okay. Um, that I like to see. But yeah, a little bit of a slump for Mookie. Um, but yeah, it's a long season, right? It comes and goes. Health wise, I think we're doing okay. Nice to have Jason Hayward back. Miguel Vargas has been a nice little injection into the lineup right now. So that's always good to see. Um, I think we are just hoping to get Max Monty back fairly soon. But overall, the offense it's been doing a little bit better. I think Chris Taylor had a squeeze bunt play in that Mets series. That was kind of interesting to see. But good to know, that the Dodgers can bust out the small ball. They're not afraid to. Uh, Honestly, going to look forward to seeing that more in the postseason. Playing more of a complete game of baseball rather than just relying on our big guys to you know, drive guys in from first or second consistently. But yeah, we'll look forward to seeing that. And then pitching wise, bullpen has stayed pretty good consistently. Walker Bueller, he's coming back. Yeah, he's gonna be up and down, I think, this entire year. Um, as long as he's good, but for October, that to me is all that really matters. But I like where we're at right now. Nothing to write home about. Spectacular stuff. It When you have a team like the Dodgers and even your Yankees, right? Like you expect to win games. Um, so it's kind of hard to temper the expectations, so to say. But yeah, I am happy. Winning 5 out of 6, that's always a good sign. So nothing too crazy for me, Matt. But yeah, we'll definitely for uh, looking forward to the weekend series because that'll be, like you said, good test for both of us, and hopefully, knock on wood, a World Series preview for both of our teams, right? So be looking
I
forward to
know.
it.
I hope so. I think realistically going into that series for both of our teams, I think we both would expect a successful series to be our teams winning 2 out of 3 in whatever order that is. But winning the series is the key, really, for any team. You go into a series, you just want to win 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4. And if you can get a sweep, that's great. But I think winning the series is got to be the key and the mindset going into that Dodgers Yankees series over the weekend. But it should be fun. I really hope Yoshi pitches against us. I think that's a good test. I want to see him and Soto kind of duke it out. And then I actually want to see, I think he'll lines up to pitch against I don't know, maybe he might pitch against the Twins. I hope he pitches against the Dodgers though, maybe on Sunday. But I want to see him pitch against Shohei, Mookie. Like I want to see him pitch against the best. He's been great this year. Let's see if you can handle with the best of the best. And I think the Dodgers, you can disagree, but I think you would agree. Shohei, Mookie, whatever order you want, they're in the top 5 players of baseball. The Yankees got 2 of them too, so it's like just so much talent in this series. I think that's going to be an exciting one for MLB to look forward to. But it'll be fun. But the difference with the Yankees and the Dodgers are on cruise control. You guys can lose 5 games in a row, and you guys lose like 1 game in a division race. Somehow are still up like 6 games after that. The Yankees were like scratching and crawling for every single win, and we're only up like 2.5 now. So it's it's a grind, man, with the Orioles. It's gonna be stressful to the end, but I gotta deal with that for another July, June, July, 4 months. So it'll be a fun summer for me. But I think other than that, I think that's all we got. So we'll get into our usual quick hitters. I'll start it off. Foolish fool of the week. I gotta give this one. It was pretty easy for me. I'm gonna go with Angels fans, the Los Angeles Angels. So I like to watch Yankees games. I got MLB TV, the subscription, but they have the blackout thing on the West Coast, which I think they need to fix for everybody. It's a pain. But because they have the Angels channel on Spectrum, at least I could watch that series on TV, just albeit on the Angels broadcast, which isn't that great. But watching that game, it was pretty sad just to see Angels fans get dominated by Yankees fans. And I only say this because I don't think I've ever heard the Yankee. So the Yankees do a roll call at home. It's kind of like their tradition. I've never heard it so loud on the road. On the road. Like they were doing the Aaron Judge, like they were doing the full on roll call chant for everybody on the field. I think that's an embarrassment. That's an embarrassment. You should never, even if it's the Yankees, Dodgers, like I don't care what sport it is, you don't let an opposing team's fan base dominate your home field. That is just sad beyond belief. And it's in the beginning of the game. So it's not like the Yankees are up 10-0 and it's nothing to cheer about. The game just started. Like where's the passion? Where's the energy? Albeit it sucks to be an Angels fan. I'll give you that. But it's just not a good look, I think, to have your fan base not back you up in that sense. So I'm gonna go with Angels fans for foolish fools of the week. You guys need to do better. But you got any state of the 808 this week?
No, nothing really. I mean, it's been pretty quiet. Um, don't want to just keep checking in on the same MLB guys. So yeah, at the moment, nothing crazy. I'll wait for Tua to sign his extension. That'll be my
Oh,
next state of the 808. So waiting for that one.
yeah. The extensions are coming slowly. Jefferson just signed,
We
so that's a
signed
bad
Waddle.
thing for.
We extended Waddle, right? JJ got his big one. So CD's gonna be asking for the bag as well. I'm very
Yep.
excited.
Yep. Might have the highest paid quarterback and receiver and defensive lineman on one team, which is pretty ridiculous. But I don't want to get into a can of worms, Jerry. You put yourself in this hole. Get us out of it somehow. But all right, I guess no state of the 808. So, sports fact of the daytime. We are recording on June 3rd. I'll go back to 1989 and one of your boys, Dodger legend, broadcaster Vin Scully. I guess he broadcasted 23 innings of baseball in two different cities in one day, which is pretty long. I don't know how someone can talk for 23 innings of baseball. I can't even handle an hour and a half we record a podcast. My voice is all hashed, but the guy did it for hours and hours throughout the day. One of the greatest faces of broadcasting, I think, not just in baseball, but in sports in general. One of the great storytellers of sports. So shout out, Vin. Respect to you. But I think other than that, I think that's all we got for this week. But thanks again, everybody, for listening. Go watch the finals. We'll be back. We'll be talking about it. So stay tuned and we'll talk to you guys next week.